Hi, and welcome to episode number 66 of the Introvert is Growth podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. As always, I'm Sarah Senecroce, your host, and so happy that you're spending this time with me today for another great episode. This is truly going to be a fall edition. It's just a few days after Halloween, and I just came back from a quick walk in the forest next to the house, and the colors are just absolutely stunning. I love fall, even though right now it's a bit cold. We went from like Indian summer to winter directly, and maybe you hear it in my voice that I have a slight cold. So today's guest is also really a good fit for this fall edition, and you'll understand why after I read you his bio. But first, let's do a little bit of business. Let's do some self-promo. In my LinkedIn business, I'm just about to launch the 12th edition of my LinkedIn Challenge. That is a challenge that I've been hosting for many years, and it starts on Monday, November 5th. It is a great place to learn about how to use this professional platform to become more visible and get clients on it. So if you've been neglecting LinkedIn and your LinkedIn presence until now, this is a great way to get started and get the community to hold you accountable to implement the 10 strategies we send you. You can sign up at thelinkedinchallenge.com. I look forward to seeing you there. And now let's hear it from my guest today, Jim Mondry. Jim co-owns an apple orchard with his wife. I told you it's a fall episode, and also runs a management and leadership coaching business. He's in the process of creating a life where he's able to support his family through fulfilling and meaningful work, and also enable his wife and daughter to have meaningful and fulfilling lives too. His background is in electrical engineering, and he has studied positive psychology, fine art, photography, and child psychology. I think you will really enjoy our conversation. Hi, Jim. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, it's already mid-afternoon, and for you, it's very early in Toronto area, right? Or
that's correct. Yeah, it's just about 3 hours outside of Toronto, but for Canada, I'm basically just outside of Toronto.
I know. 3 hours from here, we would probably be in France, but for you, it's still in the same city.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Jim, I just read the official bio and the intro that you sent me, but I want to hear your story kind of with your own words. So tell us a little bit about who you are, who you became to be, and that whole transition that you have gone through going from, the corporate environment into what you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll try and condense because there's a lot of moving parts in my story. But so to give the origin of the story, my father was born in Germany in 1937, so just around the start of World War II. By age 4, he had been in a Russian prisoner of war camp because he was born in Dresden. When Russia came through, they basically bombed the city. My father remembers one of his first memories is being in a bomb shelter and seeing one of the foot-thick metal plates to protect them being massively bent and distorted. So my father had a really challenging childhood growing up in Germany. And so his search for his family was to try and create financial safety for his and physical safety for his family. That was his mission in life. I'm so deeply grateful that he did that. But what was interesting is that then planted in me an idea that I have to be safe. I have to make the safe choices. Mm. So as a kid, I was a musician, and I was a pretty competent musician. I was a bit lazy, so I could have gone farther had I been willing to work harder. But I didn't choose to pursue music. I chose to go into engineering because it was the safe choice. I was good at it, but I didn't really feel any passion for it. And I started working in engineering I did that for 15 years. And eventually, about 5 years in, it became very clear to me that this was not something that I was passionate about. And so I really struggled. I'm going to just very simplify it with struggled got support through therapists, coaches, studying positive psychology, studying leadership, studying entrepreneurship, and started to learn a lot about who I am and what's possible for me, and started to be willing to take risks for myself that didn't put my family at risk, but were ways that in which I was going to allow myself to express myself. And so now, my wife and I own an apple orchard, which is crazy for two people who never, first off, hadn't owned a business before, and also didn't really, the only thing we didn't kill that was a plant was a Christmas cactus. So now somehow we are trying to make 5,000 apple trees thrive, and we grow a pumpkin patch. We are slowly expanding some of the things that we're growing, and then on top of that as well, I help new leaders develop the emotional and social skills that they need to motivate and inspire others.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely want to dig deeper into both worlds, but let's start with the apple orchard. How did this idea came about? Like, did you have childhood memories of visiting these orchards, or how did that?
Absolutely. So the apple orchard really is my wife's personal story.
Okay.
So my wife grew up in the town where this orchard is. It's a small town called Port Elgin, and the orchard had been here, but it was kind of a word of mouth thing. But we found out about it while we were in university. We started dating early in university. And so oftentimes in the fall, when we would come up to visit my wife's family, we would come to the apple orchard. And so we got to know this business and just fell in love with this business, but didn't think anything of it. But then while my wife was working on her PhD, she was dealing with a pretty significant amount of depression that was partially like just she's always struggled with depression, but there was also a big question of like, do I really want to pursue civil engineering for the rest of my life in the way that the type of work that she was going to be doing was going to be? And she really was scared of that. That was not who she wanted to be and not the life she wanted to live.
Mm.
And so she was asked the question, if you could do anything, what would you do? And she took it away and came back, I'd run Smith's Apples. That was in the springtime. And that fall, it came up for sale.
Oh,
so
my God.
Interesting. Wow. Is this kind of synchronicity? Like, what's going on here? And basically I turned to my wife. I'm like, let's see if we can get a bank to be willing to give us a loan. Because again, we didn't own businesses beforehand. I was still doing project management at an engineering firm. My wife was doing her PhD. So it was like, well, let's see what we can do. And we spent 3 years trying to find a bank willing to finance us. And through a lot of hard work and persistence, we built a business case that a bank was finally like, yeah, we trust you. We believe in you. We think that you can make this happen. And so here we are.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that's a great story. So obviously I can imagine that there's ups and downs in the adventure of owning an apple orchard, just like any other business as well, right? Is it season related because of, that's how the business runs? Or what are the biggest challenges that come up in this apple orchard?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to say there are two big challenges, which I think are highly relevant for any business. So the first big challenge is staffing. And one of our complications is we have primarily our season is 2 months of the year, it's September and October, when we've got apples. And so we invite all of our customers to come out here to purchase apples from us. So we don't sell in grocery stores or anything like that. So we typically have a staff of 20 to 25 people, but we only employ them for 2 months of the year. So when you're trying to hire adults, like they need work the rest of the year. So that creates an interesting complication of how do we get solid staff? And so what my wife and I have started to really do in the community is we're working on trying to hire a lot of, and this is just a demographic, so this is not meant in any sort of judgment, but a lot of moms their kids are now finally in school and they're looking for some work, but they don't really want full-time work year round. They want some flexibility around school drop-off and school pickup, and we can offer that. So we've been hiring a number of women who are like that, where they want a little bit of flexibility and they want their boss to be like, yeah, if your kid needed a little bit more time and attention when you're dropping them off at school today, that's okay. I'm not going to get angry if you're 10 minutes late because of that.
Right. So staffing is the first challenge.
Staffing is the first challenge. And the complication is like also around our pickers. Thankfully, we are able to get migrant labor. That's a long story, but 2 years ago, we hired local labor and I lost about $50,000 worth of product, worth of apples because of the quality of local picking. So that's having good pickers is a challenge, but we've solved that through partnership with another farm who brings up workers from Mexico. So then the second challenge is cash flow. So first off, we have cash coming in essentially 2 months of the year, September and October. And so that means July and August, when a lot of our cash flow is going out to get prepared for the year, is when things are tightest. Right. So how do we manage that? How do we plan for that? How do we be creative and not live in a scarcity mindset when your bank balance is dipping negative and you're using the overdraft to try and keep your business going for that time? Right. The other complication is that it's a farm. So some years are fantastic. Some years the weather is not in your favor. And so you don't make a lot of money. And it's not because of a lack of hard work or a lack of effort, just conditions were not conducive to a good crop. And so then the income can be variable, probably about $50,000 from a good year to a bad year. And when you're still new business owners, that can be a lot, and that can be a big challenge to manage.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so you said that you also have this other business where you help new leaders. What about your wife? Is she also pursuing dual careers, or is her main focus the apple orchard and your kids?
Yeah, so her main focus is the apple orchard. My wife's got some complicated medical health. So first off, she regularly struggles with her mental health and depression. The other thing is So when she was 16, she had a tree fell on her head, had a traumatic brain injury, and since then has been prone to concussions. And unfortunately, this has been a really bad year for concussions. So most of the spring and the summer, she's been working, but we're trying to help her manage her energy. So it's she just doesn't have the bandwidth to do two, a gig and a side gig when her brain is just not well.
Yeah, just dealing with that. Yeah, wow, it's quite challenging. So how does your introversion fit in all of that? Because remember, we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago where you kind of talked about that, and maybe you want to share that with the audience. So how you being an introvert fits into the picture where these people all come in during 2 months and you just have to be on. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, I try to manage that by the positions that I'm in. I'm someone who likes to have good relationships with people. And so I'm more and more trying to position myself in a management position for our staff rather than being the frontline worker. So helping my staff feel more confident to be interacting with the customers, doing the kind of, I'll call it the small talk conversations, so that I can be a little bit more quiet and be there to help when there's a question or that's bigger than they know how to handle, or when they're uncertain, or just to be there to encourage them, to just be there to share the good things that I see about what they're doing, which that helps me, so that I'm not feeling like I'm pouring all of my energy out trying to manage that. I don't want to talk to people. So, I'm slowly pulling myself a little bit back from the front line. I'm still in the business daily doing work, but it's often a lot of work that's in the background to give me the space to be there to support my team as they need it, but also to recognize that, I don't mind talking to our customers. We have some wonderful customers, but at the same time, if I spent my whole day doing that, I would be wrecked. And it would be hard to actually manage the business when I'm spending all my work energy in the business.
Right. Yeah. What about the challenge? And maybe we can relate the challenge to your other work where you coach these new leaders. So what do you feel is challenging in that work? What do you see there that is more difficult because you're an introvert?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the exact opposite type of business to our farm, because as a coach, I need to attract customers to me. I need to really be doing the work to be building relationships and talking to people and reaching out.
Right.
Whereas with the farm, it's like they come to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to really overcome my desire to just kind of be quiet, or, create LinkedIn videos or whatever that I, creating posts on LinkedIn is easy for me as an introvert because I'm not really interacting. Whereas I'm really finding to build my business, I have to be regularly networking. And that means getting on calls with new people and putting myself in situations that are a little uncomfortable, knowing that this is good for enabling me to build relationships, build connections that will lead to referrals, that will lead to business. And, it's also led to building some neat friendships with people. Like I've connected with someone in France who's a really cool person, and we've just started a friendship, another one in Las Vegas, all through this kind of networking work that I'm doing as well.
That's great. Yeah. And I kind of had to smile when you said, for the orchard, the people come to you. I was like, well, wouldn't it be amazing if that was the case for our businesses? It's like, hey, we're open, it's LinkedIn season, or, it's coaching season. Come on. And
Exactly.
so everybody would just line up to hire us. That'd be great. As introverts, that'd be ideal. Just open the door and they come in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So take us to an aha moment, some story that you remember where you just kind of, this light bulb went on and you realized something either about yourself or, maybe it was when you changed tracks, some kind of story that you could share.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got many of those, but I'm going to share one that I think will be relevant around the introverted business community. So my wife is a raging extrovert and my daughter is a raging extrovert. If they could basically spend the whole day talking to other people, they would be so happy. It's not uncommon that my wife and I will sit down together to read, and I will basically be lucky if I get one page read because my wife is constantly interrupting me. Meanwhile, she's like excitedly reading to me
sharing
and
she's reading.
Sharing. So that's just to give that bit of context. And for a time that really, really frustrated me because it was like, well, I need space. I need time. And I wasn't asking for it. I wasn't being honest about what I needed. And I was just giving. Now, through some studying in Buddhist psychology and meditation practice, what I came to realize was I was not actually owning my ability to speak up in that situation. So there were two things that came from this kind of discovery of, oh, wait, I can actually say something in these relationships that I care about trying to either set healthy boundaries to protect my energy, or there are times when I want to actually open those boundaries and allow them in as well. So for instance, things like there are times where I recognize that my wife just needs to talk and I just need to listen. And so it's like, it doesn't matter what my energy level is right now. I'm just going to make eye contact with my wife and be fully present to her. And being willing to give her that space because I choose to say, yes, this may be hard for me at this moment, but I care enough about this person that I'm going to do this. And then vice versa, knowing when it's like, okay, Katie, I need some space right now. I'm just going to go into the office and close the door and meditate or read or do some art or something where it's just like, I just need some quiet space, and asking for that. Because it's not, if I don't speak up, they're not going to know, because just the way their brains are working, they're assuming that I'm feeling the same thing that they're feeling. And so sometimes I just need to speak up and put in a boundary to protect my energy. And so that was a great lesson to recognize that I get to choose. Do I let the other person in, even if it's hard, or do I protect my energy and recharge? And I need to be mindful about when I'm doing both, and be intentional about when I'm doing both.
I love this story, Jim. Thanks so much for sharing that. I think it's so important for us to realize that it's not just about setting boundaries in our business, for example, but even with the people that, we're surrounded with the most and that we love the most. It's extremely important. And I think it takes some life experience, I guess, to realize that, and for the other person also to be, mature enough to say, oh, okay, I didn't know that, but yes, of course, I'll respect that. So definitely.
Absolutely. And it's really powerful in business when you're mindful of that, because you're going to have times where your employees need you.
Yeah.
You're going to have times when they need support, guidance, help. And you've got to be mindful about, do you have the energy to give to them? How do you create that safe space for them to open up? And so when are you willing to allow yourself to open the boundary for your employees to come to talk to you? And when do you just need to say to them, I need some quiet space. I need to focus. I need to close my door right now. This is not about you. Like, I trust you guys. I respect you guys. This is about me right now, and being willing to ask for what you need as a business owner, as a manager. That sometimes it's okay to say, I'm not responding to email for the next half hour. I'm not going to respond to the phone, just so that you can have some quiet focus, or, go for a walk at lunchtime and just, decompress from interacting with people, whatever that thing may be. Is recognizing you have a choice, and be mindful and be fully embracing whatever choice that you make.
That's so true. And I think sometimes it takes some courage to be different, because I see it with my husband, who's also an introvert, and he's in a corporate setting. And he tells me I'm the only, he's lucky enough that he's, the manager, so he can pretty much be the kind of the leader in these new ways as well. But he says, I'm the only one who does that, goes for a walk or goes out into nature and bring my lunch with me. Everybody else, they eat together. And then sometimes it kind of comes over as him being not wanting to be part of it. And why he does it is just really, he needs that break. He needs to, be outside and not think about the work environment. So yeah, definitely recommend that to listeners. If you're in a corporate setting, like, you have a choice. Like Jim said, you really have a choice. And sometimes, yes, it takes some courage to be different. But actually, not some. It takes a lot of courage to be different. That's what I realize every day.
Absolutely.
Let's change gears a bit and talk about the 3 golden nuggets, like I call them on this show. So the first one is a personal habit, something that you do on a regular basis. And I have kind of an idea, because you already mentioned something that you do every day or regularly that contributes to your success.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to throw out meditation as something that it is a practice that I do daily. Typically I do 20 minutes a day. When I'm really busy and stressed, sometimes I drop that to 10, just so that I can get 10 more minutes of sleep. But meditation has been a really helpful one for helping me be aware of what I'm thinking, and then what are the beliefs that are leading to that thinking. Because sometimes the things that we struggle with and are stressed about most are actually due to some false belief that we've created to keep us safe and secure. And so when we can start to see those, then we can really make a change in terms of our lives, our businesses, our relationships, whatever. Because then we're really empowered to actually create the life that we want.
Yeah. So powerful. And I guessed you would say meditation, because we've been on a Lisa Peterson's program together, and that's kind of how we know each other. So meditation is a big part of my daily routine now too. So great. What about something that you use for your leadership coaching business, some online tool that you would like to share?
Interesting. So I'm trying to think through what you know what I might say in terms of an online tool. This is going to sound really, really silly, but Google Calendar. And
Okay, that's a good one.
and specifically what I'm thinking is color coding and blocking time so that you can actually be in control visually of your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I know using Microsoft Outlook, where there were days when I was working in an office where you could have like multiple days all booked up in meetings, and there's just this big sea of blue, even though each meeting was different and there were different discussions happening. But there's this kind of heavy blue weight on you. And so with Google Calendar, you can change the color of the meetings so that you can actually be like, oh, see, there's actually some change. It's not just I'm wasting my time in meetings all day. Here's the discussion that we have scheduled with a friend. So this is actually a coffee date, or here's a different color for a meeting on some innovative products that I'm really excited to be working on. Or
I love that, Jim. I just realized I don't do that. I do, you know what I do? I have every kind of really like something that I don't have to forget. That's always in red. So like, our podcast recording clients, that's always in tomato red. But to have another color, like, I don't know, turquoise or pink for like my walks, or, just schedule those fun things in there too. That's a great idea. I will start doing that.
And here's a fun bit of psychology as to the benefit of especially putting in scheduling your walks or other things that are fun into your calendar, and especially into the future. I forget the name of the researcher, but this was someone who spent a lot of time researching procrastination. And given that all researchers research their own problem, I can only imagine how hard it was for a procrastinator to research procrastination. But what he found was that by reminding ourselves that we are going to get to do something we enjoy later, we're actually far more likely to focus and do the thing that we're struggling to focus on right now. So by scheduling intentionally into your calendar a walk in nature later, or whether it's a coffee with a friend, or 30 minutes to read a book that you love, or whatever the thing is that helps you de-stress, that just brings you joy, actually put that into your calendar. Because then when you find your mind being like, oh, I'm so tired and I just need to focus and I don't want to focus, you can remind yourself, oh yeah, I am doing this later. This is my reward for doing the hard work now.
Yeah. And having the different colors, then when you go back and look at your week and you thought, oh, it was such a tough week. And then you're like, oh, but there's a bit of pink in there, and there's a bit of, different colors in there. So I love that
Exactly.
idea. Thanks so much for sharing that. What about a book that you would recommend to the Introvert Biz Growth audience, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna recommend one that I absolutely love, and it's The Lapsed Anarchist's Guide to Being a Better Leader. So and that's why I wanted to share it, because it's not one that got a lot of attention. So in Grand Rapids, Michigan, there is a small community of businesses known as Zingerman's. They started as a deli. They've built up a bunch of different restaurants, but they're very local to Grand Rapids, Michigan. But they've got a really unique way of managing and leading their team, and it's partially from like a very working class background. One of the initial founders actually studied like anarchist theory and social change theory in university. So they really brought an attitude of, we want to honor the people working for us. Like, they're not just employees, they're human beings that are giving their energy and care to our business. So how do we respect them as family members and as people who are part of our team? Like, they're more than employees. And so they've written a series of books called This Lapsed Anarchist Guide to. They've got one, Building a Better Business, and then Building the Better Leader is one that I really enjoy the leadership lessons in it. Some of them are, I'll say at this point, you'll see articles about similar ideas in like Inc. magazine or Harvard Business Review, but there are still some really unique influences that they brought in that I really enjoy when they're quoting anarchist theorists, and you're like, whoa, that's a really cool idea for how to actually build a community. So that's one that will be outside of the norm, and I think is worth reading.
That's great. Yeah, because it's always so interesting when there's new mentions of books, right? I mean, we've heard Susan Cain's book many times, and there's just the classics, and I love it when there's new ones. So I'll definitely make sure to link to that one. Thank you so much for sharing. The new question that I've recently added to the podcast interview flow, and you've already seen that because I've posted it on LinkedIn and you answered, is all about marketing with integrity. So what does that mean to you, and how do you apply it in your business?
Yeah, so I already gave you an answer on LinkedIn, and I'm going to give a little bit more nuanced answer here. So long story short, I got burned with one of my first coaches that I hired, and basically lost $10,000 with someone who really was not a competent coach. Mm-hmm. And so that was a painful lesson where someone was very skilled at marketing and I'm going to use the difficult phrase of manipulating. Mm. And so from that, it's like, okay, I never want in my marketing or my communication to customers, either as a business in the orchard or as a coach, to be manipulative.
Right.
And at the same time, marketing I don't want to say it's about persuasion, because some people see marketing is about persuasion. I see, to me, good marketing is actually about helping people make an informed and empowered choice. So, I mean, you've mentioned to me Jonathan Fields. I really enjoy seeing the marketing that Jonathan Fields does, because yes, he draws in, I'll say, elements of pain and problems, and then he speaks to how his product creates a solution for that. But he's not saying that this is the only solution and that you need to work with him to finally live the life that you want. He's inviting you. It's like, do you feel this pain? I know what you're talking about, and I think I've created a solution. And if you wanted to try it, I'd love you to join me. And so for me, marketing with integrity is about communicating and speaking to the audience exactly where they are, offering them information or ideas that will be of benefit and of service to them, and then inviting them. So it's like, you have the power to choose. I want to let you make the right choice for you. And if the right choice for you is to say no, and you want to stay where you are and you don't want change, awesome. Like, that's not a downside for you. So does that make sense? Where it's about communicating, it's about connecting, and it's about speaking to the audience where they are and how you can serve them.
Yeah.
But it's ultimately about empowering them to make the right choice for themselves.
Definitely. Yeah. And that all happens in conversation, right? Whether that is through, email first, and then from there you invite them to a call with you, or whether that is through offering value through the videos you're posting on LinkedIn. But it's offering value first and then inviting them in. And yeah, Jonathan Fields, it's, I invite you to camp. For you, it's, well, I invite you to having this conversation on Zoom first, or whatever it is. But I totally agree that it's all about offering value and serving first. Totally agree with that. Yeah. There's just one thing that Jonathan Fields started doing on his podcast that it kind of made me go, that doesn't, as an introvert, that doesn't work for me. It's these sponsored ads that he's reading lately on his podcast. I wish I could ask him about it, because I can just, as an INFJ, I almost hear his struggle reading those dog food commercials. So I'd love to ask him about it and say, do you really believe in these doorbell, whatever cameras or whatever you're promoting on your podcast?
Yeah, because I know for him, it was a difficult choice of when does he start accepting sponsorship, and I think for him, you'll have to talk to him in detail.
Have to talk to him, yeah.
But I do know that it's enabled him to actually create more space for himself. So while on one hand it might seem out of alignment, on the other hand, I think there's something bigger going on for him and his creative process that might actually be
enable that. Yeah.
Yeah. So but to go back to the marketing with integrity, it's I want to make sure that any message I ever communicate is like in alignment with my values, and that I think is the most important. So like we do radio spots, we do a lot of Facebook advertising for our orchard, and anything we're speaking, I always want to make sure it's authentic, it's in alignment with our values. And it's going to speak to, it's finding the intersection between our customers and who we want to be as a business.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you. Well, we're coming to an end here. We need to wrap this up. This has been beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing your stories with me. I always ask the final question, what are you grateful for today or this week, Jim?
Yeah, what I am grateful for right now is an incredible community of friends and supporters who are basically helping us thrive as people and as a business. I have some incredible employees who are returning year over year to the orchard, and I couldn't do this business without them, and I'm so grateful for them. I also have some friends who volunteered time over the weekend to help us launch this year. And I'm just so grateful for their willingness to come and just give and support, all because they care about what we're building and they care about us as people. And so that's been amazing. And even I'm building community on LinkedIn and just getting to have the emotional support of friends and connections on LinkedIn and getting to know people and receiving their love. That is so huge and so powerful. So I'm grateful for community.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thanks so much for taking the time to share this with me, with the audience. I wish you a wonderful apple season, Jim.
Thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful fall.
Thanks.
That's it for this episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. You'll find this episode's show notes with all the links at sarahsenecroce.com/episode 66. If you're listening to this show on a mobile device, you can click on the description and you'll actually find all the clickable links there. Remember, my LinkedIn challenge starts on November 5th, so make sure you grab your spot at thelinkedinchallenge.com. This is Sarah Senecroce signing off from the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. Remember, you need to use your unique introverted superpowers in order to make a difference.